a new day.
It is a
A
new
fun day.
day.
It's a nice day. This is our new
A
theme
lovely
song.
day in the neighborhood.
A beautiful day for a neighbor. Would you be mine?
Would you be mine? Would you be my
My
neighbor?
neighbor? Yes, definitely. I will
It
be
would
your
be so
neighbor.
cool to be your neighbor.
Wouldn't it?
Could you imagine? We'd
Oh,
just be bopping back and forth.
I know. And even though I'm coming over to Vancouver for the better part of 3 weeks and we'll be able to see each other more, it's still not like we're going to be able to just
Hang out
hang
and
out. We're
play.
gonna have to make plans. It'll be great.
Yes,
But neighborhood, being a neighbor to you would be lovely.
that would be great.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Well,
And
this
we'd
is the
have
next
like
best thing.
testers right next door
Oh my goodness, that would
who
be
would
so
give
great.
who would give like honest, constructive feedback.
Yes. Do you remember when we went to the Empress and had high tea and how we
Oh,
were like dissecting the desserts? We were really just like tasting like, well, this maybe needs a little bit of blah blah blah. And oh, what do
yeah.
you think of this?
Put just a little bit more flavor.
Little
Extra. This
flavor.
is lovely.
That was so fun.
Yeah.
But yeah,
It was,
I wonder if maybe if we really knew what we were talking about.
you know, we were pretending
It
or
was
whatever.
fun.
But again,
Yeah,
yeah, everybody's got different tastes
that's
and
the
what
thing.
works for some people. But it was a lovely, lovely Empress
It
afternoon
was.
tea. It
It
really
was, and
was.
I'm looking
It's
forward to
fun.
doing that again.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
most of it is the experience, right?
Hmm.
And hanging out with your friends and
That's it.
having those conversations and kind of
That's
what we
the
do
big thing.
here.
I know. We get to
Hanging
hang
out with
out.
friends, having conversations.
Yeah. We just don't fill our mouths with treats while we're talking, because that would defeat the purpose of
We should
podcasting.
we should add that in.
Yeah. And be like, hello. Bum, bum.
Oh, yeah. Hello, don't mind us. We're just
We're
eating.
just eating, baking.
Well, we
Sorry.
usually do get hungry.
But speaking of friends, we do get
Mhm.
hungry. Speaking of friends, some of the best friendships have actually been made on the Great Canadian Baking Show.
They have. And our next guests are two of those people who met on season 7 of the show.
Hmm.
And we're so happy to be speaking with them today.
Yes.
Yes, learning a little bit about their experiences on the show and how they got started baking, the usual conversations that we have, and
Yeah.
hopefully a little bit of more information on what really happens behind the scenes.
Yeah, yeah. We like the BTS. We really do. Yes, Niv and Rainier. Rainier? Oh, I did it again. I pronounced his name, I think, 3 different ways when we
I
were
think I did too.
chatting with them. But he was very forgiving, which was great. Everybody, please welcome Niv
Yes.
and
And
Rainier.
Rainy.
Rainier.
Rainy.
Sorry, I was late. I did not realize. I don't know why I didn't think about time differences. I looked at my calendar and I was like, okay, so 1:30, that's great. And I couldn't
Yeah.
for the life of me even remember how it got in my calendar. So I wouldn't have thought about time.
Yeah. And
Time
then so
zone.
I'm texting her at like quarter after 10. I hadn't heard from her. I'm like, dude, is everything okay? Like, are we good? Do you need to reschedule? I'm
I
like,
was
what's
like,
going
I
on?
just went out
And
for
she's like,
breakfast with my
isn't
friend.
it at 1:30? I'm like, 1:30 Eastern time.
Yeah, the big one.
I'm like,
Oops.
oh great. So
But
I have 3 minutes to get home and clean off the bed behind me and make sure that everything is set up. And I hadn't even created a link for the Zoom, but we got it. We're here.
Yeah.
We're
we're
here.
all good. We're all good. So
And you have a hard stop at 2:30, correct? Is that
Me, yeah. I
yeah.
can be a few
Okay.
minutes late, but if we
Okay.
can just at 2:30, that's like when I have to.
okay. So we have about 45 minutes or so.
Awesome.
Okay.
Let's get into it. Let's
Let's
get into
let's get into it. Yeah.
I was telling Niv, I'm like, is this like the Joe Rogan podcast where it's like 3 hours long?
it doesn't usually get to be 3 hours, but sometimes it's like an hour 45
Oh
and we just
wow.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
we tend
Okay,
to
so
get carried
this
away
one's
in
gonna be
our
short and sweet.
Yeah.
we're
We
just
get
gonna have to.
chatty. Yeah, it's easy to chat about baking, right?
It is. It's like the funnest thing.
Exactly. But we're so thrilled to have a twofer today with Rainier and Niv from season 7. So thank
Yeah.
you so much for joining us. And I'm so looking forward to getting into the conversations. And I know you guys are super tight in real life as well. You guys, and I think it's going to be so much fun to learn maybe some of the, behind the scenes, what really goes on behind the scenes at Great Canadian Baking Show. But before we get there, maybe you guys can each take a little bit of time to kind of chat about who you guys are, how you started baking, and kind of a quick, how did you get into the Great Canadian Baking Show season 7 to begin with? So,
Sure, Niv, go ahead.
No, you first.
No, ladies first. Come on now.
Sure, I'll go first. Well, I'm Niv Menon-Saberi. I was on season 7, as you just mentioned, of the Great Canadian Baking Show. I started baking at a really young age, but I want to say I had like put that hobby kind of dormant for, most of my 20s. Um, Only because like in your 20s you're doing other things, you're like exploring, different sports and really trying to find yourself. And it wasn't until that I became pregnant, which was like the year I turned 30, that I realized baking was like really important to me, and I was craving everything. And it was the kind of the height of the pandemic, and everything was closed, and I live in a small town. And so I was like, I need to start doing this again and feeding me and my baby and my cravings. And so from there, with like all of the creative juices that were flowing, especially as I'm creating a child, I just channeled all of that, and like, all of my emotions into baking as an art form. And I think around that time, season 5 had just aired or finished airing. And I actually had paused on watching the Great Canadian Baking Show too for a little bit. I think I watched season 3 and then I took a bit of a break, and my sister came in and she was like, "You have to watch season 5. You're gonna love it. And like once you watch it, I think you should apply for next year." And that's kind of how the ball got rolling. Season 5 was really the season that had the biggest impact on my baking journey. And of course, like all the seasons are wonderful and great, but that was the one that gave me the confidence to like, maybe I can think like this. Maybe I can also bake like this. And I started my Instagram, and it kind of went from there.
That's awesome.
very cool.
Yeah.
And season 5, there was something really special about season 5. I completely agree with you.
Yeah, we've talked about that before. And I mean, not just because our buddies Steve and Vince
Yeah.
are on season 5, but I mean, there's a reason why I made them my friends. I kind of, I do gravitate toward the season 5 bakers. I think that was also one of the seasons that had the biggest impact on me. And that was when I started reaching out to people and being like, you know what, I don't know, there was just something special. So.
Yep. There's
It's
some
interesting.
special magic sauce about season 5. And I
I'm
feel
glad
the
it's
same
not
way
just us.
about season 7 too.
Oh,
You know, totally.
thanks.
Yeah, I actually
I'm
felt
biased, but I agree with you.
That's true.
and for good
All the
reason.
seasons are great. It's like having
Yeah.
to choose between all your children. But definitely, I think there was just something special about season 5 and season 7, and I think season 8 too, to some extent too. I mean, and all the seasons were fabulous.
Here we go.
Don't come at me.
diplomatic.
Don't come
You know
at
what
me.
it is though? I think it's definitely something about like what's happening at that time in your life. And then you're
Yeah, that's
associating
true.
it with like
Yeah.
really pleasant things or impactful things or whatever. And somehow it's just something that you associate with really good things. And I
Yeah.
think that just happened to be the case for both of us. And Niv, apparently for you, that was, kind of triggering all these thoughts of how am I going to be getting on that show, and how is that impacting my baking journey, etc. So
Yeah. I think also the fact that like it was the pandemic, everything was locked down. I wasn't getting the same sort of like creative outlets that I would normally have. And so in some ways, watching season 5, I kind of was like living vicariously through them and getting that fill. And also like just connecting with that part of me. because I wasn't really in touch with that part of me when I was working in corporate, and obviously now I'm not. So yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
that part of you that, was inspired.
Yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
yes,
Yeah.
definitely. Okay, Rainier, how about you?
Yeah, well, for me, it was kind of similar to Niv, whereas like I've always liked baking, I've always been into it, but during the pandemic, had a lot of time on my hands. Decided to start a fundraiser with like cookies, and it was during the Beirut explosion, so I wanted to raise some funds for the Red Cross, and just started selling cookies, and then people were like, "Hey, can we get more cookies?" And I was like, "Okay, well, the fundraiser is over, but I can make you some." And that's all of a sudden I started doing cakes. I had never made a cake in my life. Then all of a sudden I was getting wedding cake, like not offers, but like people offering if asking me if I could make their wedding cake and all that. And then I just got in touch with a lot of event planners, and it kind of just became its own thing. And I honestly I haven't had a. I'm still doing this part time, but I've just been so blessed. A lot of orders, a lot of custom cakes over the past few years, and yeah, it's honestly it's a passion.
Wow.
Like Nev, I also work in corporate. I'm a business analyst. It's not the most creative job there, so it's really like an outlet for me where I can just create something nice and yeah, that's pretty much
Wonderful.
it.
Incredible. And so what brought you to Great Canadian Baking Show? What was that catalyst that made you decide to apply?
It was actually very random. I never really watched like I like baking shows, but not like competition shows. It's like it's too stressful for me. I just want something that's like a bit more like low key. And a lot of my friends kept sending me the audition flyer on Instagram, and I've never seen this show. I just kind of walked in with like a random cake. It was downtown. I just went there, very like middle of the day type of thing. And the next day they called me. They're like, "Okay, you can we have another audition with you?" And I was like, "Okay, wow, this is actually happening."
Wow, things happen fast for some people.
Yeah,
Yeah,
right?
but that's the thing too. So a lot of people at that audition that I met, obviously it was very long. It was like a 3 hour, 4 hour day type of thing. A lot of people were like, "Oh, this is my seventh time auditioning," and I'm like, I don't even know the name of the show. This it's crazy.
Yeah, yeah.
But I got very lucky. I'm very, very lucky.
And so how was that experience then when you got to the tent, when you met all the other bakers? Tell me for each of you, like was there instant connection or was it just like fear or were you worried about the level of competition? Like as in, is this going to be like a competitive show or like not maybe realizing that it's so much more than that and much more of a just family friendly, hey, let's all just bake together and whoever advances, but it's not about winning or losing.
Yeah, it's I think the fact that we all help each other so much on the show, and you could actually see it in other seasons too. There isn't that like vicious like you kind of like the American shows are usually a bit more like rough.
Cutthroat. Yeah.
Yeah, exact cutthroat. Whereas we're like Canadian, we're nice, we help each other out,
Wholesome.
very yeah,
Yeah,
wholesome.
yeah.
Yeah.
I wish we could
It,
have gotten a screenshot of
Yeah.
all four.
Let's do that.
it's it's funny because um especially when you live in like a small town like I do, or a small community where you're like one of a handful of bakers in your friends group or whatever, you're like the best baker and you're proud of it and you're kind of known for that.
Hmm.
And then you're prepping for the show and you're coming up with all these like creative ideas on your own and you're like, wow, I'm a freaking creative genius. And then you go on the show and
And
you
you're
meet 10
humbled
other
real quick.
people
Yeah.
with the exact same scenario. Like they are all that in their communities
Yes.
and their town, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, I'm actually not the best. Like I'm actually good, but like there's others. And so yeah, it's a bit intimidating. But you feed off of each other's energy and
Mhm.
stress and emotions, and you get inspired by their ideas. A lot of times we were um, the show is really cool because they continue to reiterate the fact that like, you know, you're going to come in here and you're set on an idea, but like you will want to change it. You will see something in a technical that you really you know, a new ingredient or a technique that you just learned, and you might want to apply that to the next week. And it was true. Like I didn't believe it. Some of my concepts I came up with like 12 hours before filming, like in the hotel room. I like changed. Yeah. So that was
It's
pretty cool.
So is that stressful though at the same time when you're like you had a plan going into that day and what you were going to bake, and then 12 hours before you go, yeah, you know what? I'm going to scrap that and, you know, pivot into something completely different. And were they like maybe little shifts, or were they like, I'm doing
Yeah.
something completely
Give us an
different?
example.
Yeah.
It for me, it was like a complete concept change. Like I all my flavors stayed the same, so that was kind of nice. This is for my season for Cookie Week.
Mhm.
Um, but then I was just like not really connecting with the idea. Like it wasn't translating from my brain onto the trial. You know, because we had to do a bunch of like tests and submit pictures and stuff. And I was like, this isn't really working. And then while I was like in the hotel room, I don't know, you know, there's some downtime, so we get to hang out and all of that stuff. And like, as we were talking, somebody asked me, I think I remember, like, I think it was you, Renee, like, you know, what's your husband? And I was like, oh, he's Persian. And then all of a sudden it like clicked in my head. I was like, oh my God, I need to do a Persian rug for Cookie Week. And then I went back and I just had to like get it out. So like little things like that kind of change the course of your creative direction. Is it stressful? Yeah, because you don't know how it's gonna turn out. Like you haven't practiced it before sometimes, and you end up doing it for the first time in the tent. But is it creatively really satisfying? Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Like excited about an idea and be like, yes, this is it. It's gonna work.
Yeah.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but were you in Australia for part of your preparation time?
Yeah, for the first my first two bakes, like my first signature and my first showstopper, I did it in Australia with none of my baking equipment and like equipment from the 70s. Like it was brutal. But it kind of was like, well, if I can do this here, I can do this in the tent. And it was like a little bit of a stress test or
Yeah.
confidence boost that
Yeah.
I needed. And I wouldn't change anything about it. Like it was great.
So did you go and seek out commercial kitchens to do stuff in? I think that's just so exciting.
This is crazy.
Yeah.
I was in New Zealand, first of all, in a camper when I was like putting together recipes, so I couldn't actually test anything. The week after, I was going to be in Adelaide at, you know, my husband's cousin's house, and I'm looking for commercial kitchens. There, like, if I had gone the week before, for example, if all of this was just 1 week before, I wouldn't be able to tell you the story. But that week that I was there, a commercial kitchen opened up that same week.
Wow.
Wow.
Meant to
So it
be.
just kind of felt like, I don't know, fate.
It's
And
meant to
Yeah.
it was
be.
like two of the loveliest ladies. They're like kind of hustlers, entrepreneurs too. And I like explained to them the situation. I had also reached out to the Great Australian Bake Off, like everyone that I had followed. I was like, guys, this is my situation. If any of you are in Adelaide, like, and they almost all of them responded and were like, if we were in Adelaide, we would 100% help
Oh,
you. This girl lives here. Maybe you can go to her house and bake. Like, it was really nice to see the multiverse of the Bake Off
Mhm.
series kind of helping out.
yeah. That
Yeah,
is
how the
so lovely.
families.
And
Yeah.
that's kind of what the community's about, actually, is exactly that. Like you just all get together and you're supportive, and you prop each other up when you need propping. And you know, it's not cutthroat. It's not, you know,
So,
it's everybody's so incredibly helpful and gracious.
Yeah.
It's really a truly magical space.
It
for
really
sure.
is. I mean,
Yeah,
even just the Instagram space is a pretty magical space.
so true. So
Yeah.
true.
Yeah. Rainier, I'm sorry, I pronounced your name incorrectly before.
Did
Uh,
you? I didn't even notice.
Yeah,
That's
no
okay.
I'm
worries.
saying it right.
Okay. Excellent. Any behind the scenes little tidbits you're wanting to share, itching to
Yeah,
share
no,
with
for
us?
me, it's we've had a lot of like because the cast kind of gets a lot of downtime after the taping and stuff and in between episodes, we actually bounce off ideas off of each other. And I can confidently say that all of my ideas changed when I met all these very talented people where you think you're coming in there, like Nif said, with like this great idea, and then you meet Candace and you're like, okay, this is I gotta step it up. So a lot of my ideas did change. Now the thing with like the show, the way that it's done is that you have to submit ideas prior, get them approved, get your ingredient list, just so like
Mhm.
logistically you have, your stuff for the filming. So a lot of my ideas would just change like 2 hours before in the morning. I would just like completely change the recipe. I was a bit messy with that, I'm gonna be honest. I think I was the only one that like kept emailing the show's producer and being like, hey, last minute change, it's a completely different recipe, like surprise.
You
So
weren't the only one. Don't worry. You were
I
not the
wasn't
only
okay, good. Well, honestly, that's what it felt like I was because I saw everybody with their big, nice, like cool concepts that they planned for like 6 months in advance, and I come in like with something I made up the night before. So yeah, but honestly, because we help each other so much, it
Mhm.
didn't feel like a competition. It felt like this baking like camp where I was just going with
Yeah.
friends and because you're not allowed to have your phones on you, you just become like this weird, like kind of like
Insular.
crowd. Yeah, like not like you're very like focused on each other and you get to
trauma
connect with
bonded.
people. Trauma bonding, that's the word I was like.
We hear that often, actually.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
yeah,
so
because we
what's
don't have access to the outside world, I don't have a choice but to like not be on my phone and being antisocial. So you really
yeah.
make friends, you make connections, you learn all of each other's secrets before even knowing each other for like 24 hours. So it's great.
Yeah, definitely. I know Candace and Loic were both saying along those same lines, how it was such a helpful environment. Loic didn't even know what dowels were, and everybody was, telling him, you got to put dowels in your cake. All those kind of little moments where people are helping each other. What was the other one? The little squirrel table Candace was
Loic,
talking about.
yeah, Loic actually built it
Built
and I
Yeah,
it.
paid
Yeah.
her. Yeah.
that's true.
It's just wonderful. So I like those little kinds of behind the scenes stories that you don't see on the screen. And actually, I think those are some of the moments that we would really love to be able to see, but they only have so much time,
Yeah,
I
they
guess,
do.
for
They have
each episode.
limited time and it's more focused about the actual baking and obviously not the real behind the scenes. Although I found season 8 they did a really nice job, I think bringing out even more of
A
the
lot more.
personalities.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. And I
Yeah,
don't
they
There
know
was a
if
lot
that
utilized
more
social
like,
media a lot
yeah,
more.
a lot of, I guess, yeah, BTS, like between filming,
Mhm.
stuff that was happening for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was really, really well done. It would be
Yeah.
nice to see more of that from people from past seasons, which is also kind of what we're trying to do here a little bit, is to
For
to
sure.
bring everybody back up and say, guys, that we're all part of this big family and we want to hear from you. We want to know more about what's been happening. How did it impact your life? So maybe we'll talk about that a little bit. Did it make a big difference in what happened? I mean, obviously there's a lull between filming and the show actually airing, but then once it aired, I'm sure there were some impacts on your lives.
Even before airing, I would say like you go there and you're stressed and you're doing all this for a few weeks and then you give it your all and then you come back home and it doesn't exist because it's not real yet, right? So
Yeah.
you're kind of like in this limbo place where you're waiting to be able to tell people you've done it and all that because obviously you signed like 3,000 NDAs. So
Yeah.
you're just waiting for like the surprise aspect of it and that comes like 6 months later.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So yeah, you have your summer and then it restarts once you see the photos and the excitement comes back and it's beautiful.
Yeah.
And how was that? How did everybody in your lives who didn't already know about it, how did they respond when they saw the announcements that you're on this show?
But honestly, they were crazy shocked. I did not tell a single person in my life except like the 10 that were in that little clip at the beginning of episode 1. But otherwise, I have so many family members that had no idea, and it was cool actually. It was like getting actually recognized by people like random people in public. That was pretty cool. I felt like a Kardashian for a day.
Niv, how about you?
For me, I also didn't tell a whole lot of people, but there were people that were like getting suspicious about it because I was just like mysteriously saying that I was going to culinary school in May all of a sudden for a few weeks. And I had a really young like daughter, like she was, I think, less than a year, no, a little over a year old.
Mhm.
And a lot of people were like, wait, you're just like going away for 2 months.
Yeah.
And like what's gonna happen with your dog? Like, and so people were getting suspicious in that way, but also during my practice bakes, because I was practicing things like over and over again once I did get home from Australia, a few of my friends that I hadn't told were all of a sudden getting like treat boxes every other day. And they were like, what the heck are you? And you're not posting? Like, that's weird. Like, and I would have to like chop things up so they didn't actually look
Like, you know what
like,
it was?
yeah, they
Yeah.
didn't look like what it was going to be on the show. So I remember I'd made the monkey breads that I did for bread week, and then I like ripped off the head and ripped off the tail. It's just like, here you go, here's some bread.
Here's a
And
random
then I would
torso
ask them
for
for
you.
their
Yes.
yeah, and I would like ask for their feedback, and that's not usually something that like genuinely ask for unless somebody like because it looks like I'm fishing for compliments, but I'm really not. Like I want to know, do you actually like it? What do you not like about it?
Yeah.
And so a few of my friends kind of were like, "Oh, okay, yeah, sure, you're
Hmm.
going." But then when I announced, a handful of people were surprised, but then so many were like, "Oh no, we're not surprised at all. Like we saw this coming. Like
Uh,
you've mentioned that you wanted to go on baking shows before and how much you love them, and we see that, the work that you're putting into your Instagram." So, but for me, after filming, yeah, Rainier mentioned there's like a bit of a lull between when you come home and when,
mm.
things finally get to be shared. I just like jumped right back into baking things. So I was like teaching my baking camps with kids. I wasn't doing orders at that time because I only just formally have a home bakery that like as of last year. But I just jumped right back into, whatever I was doing regular life. So it didn't really feel like I was like waiting around or anything like that.
Yeah.
But I was really excited to share it with the kids in camp because they would be like, you should go on a baking show. And I was like, oh, if only
You
you
wait a minute.
knew.
Only you knew.
Yeah.
Just
And
hang
so
tight.
that was my favorite part, was to be like the following year, once it had been released and everything was out, I have kids like walking into my class quoting me, like
Oh.
memeing me from the show, and I was like, oh God, did I really say that?
Oh, but that's so sweet.
That's
That's
amazing. That
so
would feel
lovely.
pretty
That
nice.
was really cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
And how
And
about you? Oh,
go ahead.
sorry. Go ahead. No, go ahead.
No, Christina, I think it was a half-formed thought. It would have come out of my mouth, but now it's gone for sure. So please
Oh,
continue.
no worries. I was just going to ask Rainier, like, what did you tell people you were doing for the time that you were on the show?
I told them some French chef is coming to Toronto and I have to go there for a few weeks. And it was somehow people didn't ask that many questions. I was just going to on like a baking retreat. So yeah, that was cool. I actually had friends visiting Toronto, which you're not allowed to see friends
Oh,
when you're there. So I had to like really come up with an excuse and being like, oh, I have COVID. I'm in a
oh,
Can't see
hotel.
you.
They actually came to
When you
see
could
me.
still use COVID as an
Yeah,
excuse.
exactly. You could get away with everything back then.
Yeah.
So I faked COVID that I was very sick in the hotel room. They actually came to the parking lot to say hi to me from there.
oh.
So that was really nice. But I had to lie to them. And then months later, I was like, remember that time I had COVID in Toronto? Yeah, I was actually filming something. So that was cool. And also coworkers, like how do you explain to your coworkers that you're not going you're going on vacation to Toronto? Like who goes there for how many I don't know how many weeks we were gone. So that was pretty that was funny.
Yeah.
No kidding. I think that would be the hardest part. I mean, I have lots of friends in Toronto and it would be like, no, sorry, can't see, shouldn't even tell them I'm here.
Yeah.
But have you ever thought about auditioning for the show?
Yes, yeah, we
And
have.
but
Yeah.
like it's I
We
mean
have
it's
a few times.
Yeah.
okay. So
Yeah.
look, I can put in a recommendation if you want.
Please
Sure,
do.
we'll take
Yeah, that
any
would be
recos.
great. We had a really good time at the open call in Vancouver.
Oh,
So
nice.
that was great. We went together. Christina was not going to apply this year, but I convinced her to, I think, mostly because I needed a ride because I came over on
I
the
would have given you a
ferry.
ride regardless.
Yeah, I know you would have. But we had a really nice day together. So that was great. And yeah, it's one of those things where you can apply online and everything and they can see your pictures and even after years of applying they know who you are, but
Yeah.
the open calls were the opportunity for them to
Yeah,
actually taste what you're
Taste your pro.
making.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So
yeah.
that was kind of exciting.
But you were going to say you had some recos for us.
Yes.
Tell
I
us,
I think he was
share
gonna
your share your knowledge.
I think he was gonna put in a recommendation for us to
Oh, two actually.
casting.
Okay, yeah, okay, yeah, no, like I meant
Oh,
like
you're going
as
to
in
put in you're going to put in a good
references.
word for us. Oh, I like this.
I can just sign off on your no, but honestly, I
If
think
that
going in like the open call is like the best way to get cast because you can really show them your personality and you get to meet the actual people that you're gonna work with on the show. So
yeah.
that's
Yes.
what's really cool about it.
Yeah.
You really make a connection with them, and yeah, it's I I think people should be like when I went to the audition a few years ago, there were a lot of people, but then I went I think last year and way less people. I don't know if people are losing a bit of hope in the process, but I really push people to really like don't give up, reapply, reapply, reapply. Some people have applied 7 years in a row and got in on season seven. So
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
Well, Jen did.
Andrew, was it?
Andrew
Okay,
took a break as well. Like one season he didn't apply and then he
yeah.
did again. And sometimes that break is like it's really needed because I know when I was told no my first year of applying, I considered not applying again the next year. And I was just like, you know what? Because it is such an intense process.
Mhm.
Like it's
It
so
is.
much, even just the auditioning, the interview, and then having to do it all again. Like I can't imagine doing that seven
I know
times
it's
or
like a
whatever
job
it is. Like
interview, right? And then you get
that's
your hopes up.
commendable. But like sometimes, yeah, just a rest year is maybe exactly what you need, and
Mhm.
there's nothing wrong with that. Like, yeah.
Yeah. Kind of
Mhm.
refocusing and being like, okay, is this something that I'm doing because I really love it and I really want to do it? Or is it just something that I'm doing because I'm used
For
to like
doing.
every year at this time
Yeah.
I do this,
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I
And
think, go ahead.
I was just going to say, and sometimes from disappointment comes some really cool stuff. Like this is how Lisa and I
This
started the
podcast.
podcast
Yeah.
last year was
Yeah,
because
exactly.
we were a little disappointed. We didn't, neither of us made it on the show last season for season 8 again. And then we were just like, you know how it is, right? You're a bit disappointed. Same thing, like you said, Rainier, when you go through to a job interview and you feel so confident about what you've presented and what you did, and then you get that email or that call that says, sorry, not this time around kind of thing. And you're like, you're bummed out for a bit. Not gonna lie, we were both kind of
Of
bummed
We
out,
were
course.
a little bit
a,
bummed
a
out.
little
Yeah.
bummed out. And then from there, our husbands who've never ever met in person, haven't even had a
They've
conversation.
never talked to each other.
Both both of them said the same thing to us, which was, why don't you guys do your own thing? Like figure out
Yeah.
what you want to do and do your own thing. And I think we both kind of shrugged it off and kind of like, ha, that's so funny. And then we ended up getting together for a weekend. I went over to visit Lisa in Victoria, and we just started talking, and we're like, well, maybe we could do a podcast.
Yeah.
Neither of us
Totally.
having any idea what it takes to do a podcast.
I still
Totally,
have no idea, honestly.
Yeah.
Everybody's having
totally
one these
oblivious.
days.
Yeah.
Renee and I
It's a
send each
lot.
other voice notes on our phone like a lot, and
Oh
we're
yeah.
like, this should really be a podcast.
Yes, that
Totally
would be an
should.
amazing podcast.
But like also no, it shouldn't because like no.
Oh no, it totally should, especially if it's like totally no. I
Yes.
totally yes.
Yes, I think that would be a great kind of spicy podcast. I'd be very
Yeah,
interested in
well.
listening to that. So
No,
you two really developed a close friendship through being in the tent together.
That's like an understatement. Renee's like
yeah,
family
honestly.
now. Like my daughter gets sick and he's like the first person that knows about it. And I'm like sending him pictures about all my life crises and happy moments, and we're just
Oh
like
yeah, she has my social security number. We're we're super close with
sometimes
that
I just like
too.
take on his identity when it's convenient. Yeah.
They're each other's emergency contacts.
Yeah, like to
Exactly.
get
She's
into
my
clubs and
momager,
stuff.
so
Got each other's power of
Oh,
attorney. You're just like, oh, I need
of
some money.
course.
Well, maybe she has
executor
some.
wills, yeah, the whole thing. So,
No, yeah. When I so when I first saw Rainier, it would have been like during that intro Zoom call, basically,
Yeah.
where we all met the bakers. And I was like, I'm either gonna hate him or love him. And I know this because he has great eyebrows.
oh,
What?
It's true.
all
That was
about
like
the
a running
eyebrows.
gag.
Gotta
It was the eyebrow.
explain that.
And then we closed the call because like I think we were all like, let's go meet downstairs, like in the lobby to go out for lunch, or I can't remember what it was, but we're like, let's meet in person. And I go to walk out of my room, and directly across from my room is Renier's room. And we both like walked into each other and we were like, oh, hi. And then
But
I
yeah.
you can't tell how tall someone is. So he was like a lot taller, and then that was it. Like we were just like friends from that moment.
Oh,
Kind of
Even
like
Despite
with
the gray
everybody,
eyebrows or because of the gray eyebrows?
it was definitely the eyebrows. I'm
it
like,
was the
if you and I
connecting.
can,
Yeah.
if you and I can use the same eyebrow person, we're gonna be good friends.
Oh, you
I love
said
it.
great eyebrow. Okay, great.
Great.
No,
I said
great,
gray,
not
and
gray.
I was looking
Great.
at his eyebrows. I'm like, they don't look like gray eyebrows to me. They are
No,
great
no, no, like
eyebrows.
great.
Great. That's an
Yeah.
awesomely amazing
Yeah.
eyebrows.
Well, thank you.
They are
They're a
lovely.
bit shy right now, but no, but it's actually on the whole show, honestly, our season, and from what we've heard, we developed such a good bond, and everybody's really friends with everybody. Like we all really liked each other. Can't say the same about other seasons. I don't know. Heard some rumors. I'm just kidding. But I can tell you honestly, season seven, like we really like each other. We're all like really great friends. We have a group chat. We're
Yeah.
all up each other's business. So it's really good. It's really fun.
That
That's
is amazing.
wonderful.
And you guys post every so often on Instagram when you do have your Zoom calls and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, we do,
And
yeah.
you've gotten together as well on a, I think, right, to do some baking. Have you guys?
A lot of the Ontario bakers get together a lot. Me and Andy are in Montreal, so we're a bit we're like the French. We're a bit busy
Connection.
here, but
But
this is
Kemi and
far,
I
far.
drove up to see you guys. I drove 8 hours all the way to Montreal, and we spent a whole weekend. We saw Lydiane and
Oh, good.
Andy and Renier, and that was really nice. And I wouldn't wish a long distance friendship on anyone. It's like actually so hard
Yeah.
with all of them, but like for me, especially Renier, because I talk to him so often. Yeah, I just sometimes wish they were all closer for sure.
Oh,
Yeah,
that is so
definitely.
special. And it goes beyond your own seasons too. I mean, you guys have forged friendships with people from other seasons. And Niv, like your experience with when you were away and in Australia and New Zealand and connecting with other bakers from the Great Australian Bake Off and it's worldwide now and it's
Yeah.
having those connections, which is
Mhm.
really super cool. And
Yeah.
just
I
again,
agree.
some of the magic of Great Canadian Baking Show or that franchise bringing so many people together.
That's yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
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 I was thinking, okay, this is off topic, but it's not really off topic. But I like to watch The Circle. And so I was watching this last season of The Circle, and there were these two people that when they saw each other over the video chat, um, she was like, well, they didn't see each other in person. She just saw his picture and they talked to each other, blah, blah, blah. She's like, that's my man. I'm gonna marry him. And he was
Oh,
like the same thing about her just from seeing her picture and them,
Whoa.
chatting. And so after the show was over, I was like, I'm gonna go and look that up. And they actually are engaged now. They've been
oh
together
wow.
for like a year and
Wow.
a half and they're engaged because of that show. And so if it were not for these reality shows, like they wouldn't have that relationship and their future together, and you guys wouldn't have
Yeah.
what you have right now. And I just think that's so fascinating. So it wasn't really like a
No,
detraction from the conversation.
we met under very like special circumstances,
Of
that's for sure.
course.
Like yeah, maybe our like lives would have crossed paths either on Instagram, giving each other a follow or something, but like
Yeah.
not to the I think the we wouldn't have been able to cultivate this like friendship if it wasn't for the show for sure. And that's I think what I'm like most grateful for. Rainier and I like we were really in sync on the show to the point where we could like read each other's
Yeah,
thoughts
we had
and
like a
minds
weird
and
psychic
stuff.
connection. Like it was pretty cool. And it's
Yeah. Do
true.
you want to
Once
tell
you
the
go through
story?
something, what,
Yeah,
sorry?
tell us the
Do you want to
story.
tell the story about the Cookie Week
The
technical?
cookie, oh my God, yeah. So the cookie week challenge. So the whole point of obviously the technical is we don't know what it is, right? So
And we
every
were
single,
struggling.
yep,
Like, let's
yeah,
be honest, me and you and like a few others, we were struggling. So we were trying to get ahead of it. Be like, what could
exactly.
they possibly do or want?
And
Yeah.
also, we don't have our phones, so we're like trying to like scrape together like what could it be, and then we're trying to think about like other seasons, what they've done, and kind of like it's kind of like trying to find the numbers of the winning lottery next time, right? So
Yeah.
we're going through like all this like pen and paper, trying to predict what it's gonna be.
Yeah,
And
process
me
of
and her thought,
elimination.
what? Sorry?
Process of elimination.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So me and Niv totally thought about the same Middle Eastern cookie, which is called mamoul, and we were like fully like convinced that it's gonna be that. And once they revealed what was it called? Kaknaka,
Cash,
which is like a very like this almost the same thing.
similar.
We just looked at each other. It doesn't show on camera, but we were just
But
like,
our jaws
"Ah,
dropped. Yeah.
did you hear that?"
Well, because I think the timing of it, it was the night before we filmed that, and I was in my room, like, Googling away of being like, I get the sense that it's going to be something Middle Eastern. I don't
Yeah,
know why. And apparently, Renier told me afterwards, he was on the phone with his mom. You were talking to your mom,
yeah,
and you also had that same feeling. And so you
same
were
thing.
asking your mom, like, Mom, tell me some Middle Eastern cookies that you're like Lebanese cookies that you know. And she mentions Ma'amul, and I'm Googling, and then I send him a link to him being like, hey, I think we need to study this recipe because I think this is what it's going to be.
Yeah,
And we both landed on Ma'amul. And so we had this like inclination. And then during the technical, when it was revealed, and they were like, it's this, like whatever cookie filled with a date paste. And so is Ma'amul. And we were
Rosewater.
like, yeah.
You're like,
Yeah, we
oh
were
my
like
goodness.
incredible.
shocked. Yeah.
Oh,
So that was pretty
wow.
cool. And then there was one time where so Renee and I kind of left our doors open once we became like really good friends. So we would always kind of be in and out of each
Yeah,
other's
we saw
rooms
your
in the
door,
hallway.
like, yeah,
Yeah, we had like this like open door
Literal
policy.
open door
Yeah.
policy.
yeah.
And so I like messaged him one day and I was like, "Hey, can you bring cinnamon or
Cinnamon.
like
Yeah. Oh my God,
cinnamon?"
that.
I was like, "I'm out of cinnamon. I don't feel like texting, like our crew person. Can you just like get me some cinnamon if you have some?" Because I knew he had tons of like Middle Eastern spices in his room. And so and I didn't tell him a time frame. I was just like, just bring it. Like, and he thought it was
Yeah,
an emergency because when you're practicing, every minute counts,
yeah.
like behind the scenes. And he like runs in my room with a towel.
I
And
had just showered, and I'm like I
he's
needed
like,
to get rid
here's
of
the
cinnamon.
cinnamon. And I'm like, it's not that serious, bro. But then in the process, the door behind him shuts.
So my room got locked because you need your little card. And so I was just standing wet from my shower and just a towel in Niv's room, being like, "Hey," with a bag of cinnamon.
How do you explain that one?
I don't know.
And
We
I
had
was
to,
like, what are we gonna do? And he's like, I gotta call the guy downstairs to let me in. And he comes up and he looks at Renier like,
yeah, it was just hard to explain.
Very, very hard to explain.
You're just
yeah.
like, no, she needed cinnamon.
Yeah.
And then
And
he finally gets
Is
to
that
his
what you
room, and
said?
then
She
it
needed
happens
cinnamon?
I don't remember
again.
what I said, but obviously I don't think the hotel knows what we're doing up there. They only see us
Yeah.
cooking all day, so they're like, "What are these like people doing in their rooms?" So there's
Yeah,
just
yeah.
me with a bag of cinnamon, practically naked. This guy had, I'm sure, what, and obviously they can't let anybody into the hotel room, so you have to ask who I am. So it was like a whole like conversation, not just like just
In
coming to
his
your room.
towel.
Well,
With a
yeah,
towel.
because normally, yeah, if you need a key, they'll ask for your
Your
ID. But
ID.
of course,
Yeah.
you're in a towel, so likelihood of having your ID on you is probably slim to none.
Yeah.
Yikes.
And then it happens again like a few days later. Didn't it happen one more time? But this time you were like
This time I
fully
wasn't naked,
dressed.
but yeah, I had
Yeah.
to bring up the same guy again. And I was like, listen, just at this point, just keep my door unlocked. Like, it's gonna be
Yeah.
easier.
Just keep a shoe in the door
Yeah,
So ever
legit. I
since
should have
then, we
done
just
that.
like,
Yeah,
or do
yeah,
the locker. Yeah. Oh, that's
exactly.
exactly.
hilarious.
Yeah, I love
Yeah.
that. That's a
That's
great.
probably my favorite moment, like from the BTS. And then, so Renier left, and then I left right after him. And
Yeah.
I like scavenging his room for ingredients because you can do that when somebody leaves, you go in and you take anything they had, or because you don't want to waste any ingredients
Mhm.
or
Yeah, for sure.
equipment or whatever. And that was like so difficult. I was like, no, the
Oh,
tahini paste, I'll take
Yeah.
this.
I was not gonna bring that on the plane there.
Yeah.
But yeah,
That
I
was
left
really tough.
all this great stuff. And yeah, when you leave, when you're, for the people that don't know, is that when you're practicing for the show in the hotel rooms, you have all the ingredients and all the tools and like a whole box of with the mixer and all that. So that's why we could have these ingredients. It wasn't like a normal hotel room. It had like a fully functioning kitchen.
Yeah,
nice.
And yeah, that's how we were able to
practice.
study up on our recipes.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah, because I was always thinking about that, how it would be really hard to be trying to practice in a hotel room. You would hope that they would have a fully functioning kitchen.
Yeah, no, with a dishwasher and everything. So
oh,
we
nice.
were fully covered.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, not a
That is
ton of
cool.
counter space, but that's okay. I there was like one point where I had like baking pans and sheets on my bed and like
All right.
and
Okay.
like it just took over the whole room. But
Um,
yeah, I didn't really like process kind of anybody leaving before me, but especially Renier leaving before
Mhm.
me, like until I got home. And then I was watching the episodes, and then it like hit me like a ton of bricks that I was like,
mhm.
oh my God, I'm not gonna be able to see these people like just outside
Easily.
my room anymore. Like it's gonna be actually really hard to meet up. And that was, I think, my least favorite and like the toughest part of the show, honestly.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
not saying bye to people that you're not gonna see every single day again. Like it's like when you leave school, right? And you're never gonna see these friends again because they're going to a different school.
Yeah.
Always
And
the
you
same
Yeah.
say,
vibe.
oh, we're going to get together, but you know that it's going to be tough. So, have you
Yeah.
managed to have any kind of like little group reunions with the whole cast?
They did one last year at Kathy's. I was supposed to go, but I ended up having a wedding in Italy. And then I'm happy to say that this year I'm hosting it. So everybody's
Awesome.
coming to me.
Oh, that's awesome.
Port
Um,
Elgin.
Oh,
yeah, in
wonderful.
Ontario, in Port Elgin. I'm like putting Port Elgin on the map now.
Never heard of it
Right.
Nobody
before,
knew,
Niv.
but yeah. So everyone's coming here, and I'm like super excited for it. And I have to clean the house and kick my family out, but that's fine.
Yeah. What's the itinerary? What is the plan? How long are they going to be there?
So I had like so much stuff. I was like, guys, Port Elgin has the world's largest nuclear reactor and we can do a tour. And they were all like, Niv, we literally don't care. All we
Oh
want to
my
do
gosh,
is
she made it
bake.
sound like it was Disney World. Like we were like, we just want to go and bake. Like we're not going for Port Elgin. Like it's
We're
fine.
going for
For
hanging
you.
out and
Yeah.
baking and eating and yeah.
I like put together a presentation and everything, and it was like really cute. And I like imprinted our photo of us from the show in like every like special spot in Port Elgin. And
Oh, that's
but ultimately they were all like, yeah, we don't want to do any of this stuff. We just want to hang and bake. And so
Yeah.
that's what we're doing.
I'm
that's
really
Yeah.
glad that they
sounds
felt like they could say that to you, right?
Yeah.
Being honest with each other about it. Because
Yeah.
yeah,
Wake
No.
and
like
bake.
Yeah,
baking,
exactly.
just getting together, that'll be good. Now, are you hosting all of them in your house like overnight?
I wish. I live in a cottage town, so there's lots of cottages for rent,
Right.
and they're booking one just like a few houses down for me.
oh brilliant.
I'm hosting a few in my house, whatever I can sleep. My husband and daughter will be leaving for that weekend. So
It's
yeah,
easier, right?
Oh, you're
yeah,
gonna love that. That's gonna be so awesome.
it's gonna be fun.
What are we looking at time wise? Okay, we should
Oh,
probably do our this or that because you got to get out of
Oh,
here, Rainier.
yeah.
sure.
Okay.
Okay, so we'll fire out some this or that questions. So I don't know if Christina prepped you for this. This is just a bunch of questions where we say, "Do you like this or that?" And then you just answer the first thing that comes to your mind.
Perfect.
All right. So, coffee or tea?
Coffee. Tea is for losers. Sorry.
Um, okay.
Wow.
Okay.
So
Making
I
enemies
used
right
to,
there.
I
See,
used
and
to
you
say
think I'm
coffee.
bad?
You used to say coffee?
I used to say coffee, and now it gives me like really bad anxiety. So I'm gonna say Indian, like masala chai,
Oh,
Proper.
Oh,
yes.
and or Persian chai.
Okay.
So not just any tea.
I
Yeah.
don't even
So
know if I've tasted
Persian
the difference
chai.
between them.
One is with milk and one is without milk, and it's boiled in a double boiler so the leaves don't burn. Like Persian tea is boiled in a double boiler.
oh
Okay.
wow.
It's so good.
Oh,
Mhm.
Is that the thing they have in summer when it's hot and then it keeps them cold or whatever? Oh,
Yes.
there's
Yes.
science
They
behind that.
say drinking hot tea makes you, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've got
Oh,
to try this Persian tea. I've never,
hmm
me
oh,
neither.
yeah, it
sounds really, really
sounds
good
good.
right now, actually.
Oh,
Yeah.
I have tea on tap at my house, so feel free to come to Port Elgin. There's
tea on
always
tap.
tea.
How far away is Port Elgin from Toronto?
It's about 3 hours
Okay.
southwest of Toronto
Okay.
on Lake Huron.
Well, we are planning to do like a cross-country baking scraps tour. I, of course, thought that this would be driving because, I mean, it's a road trip. That sounds amazing to me. I love the idea. Plus, you don't have to rent a car, but she wants to fly. So I guess I'll be doing a road trip on my own and she'll just meet me at every major town. But
Sounds
yeah, when
a
we
lot
get
like
out
me.
that way. Yeah,
Sounds good.
I love the idea of a road trip, but okay, next.
We'll see. Cake week or bread week?
Cake
Cake.
week.
Oh, both cake week.
Instant cake week.
Yes.
All
Mhm.
right. Not so much for the
I
gingerbread.
video call Rainier for all of my, like when I'm at a venue for my wedding cakes, I'm like immediately being like, is this okay? Is that okay? What should I do? He's like my cake
Is your
doctor
cake
guru.
guru.
Yeah.
Love
And I
it.
just don't, I've never made bread. I don't get it. Like, how does it so weird?
You've never made, well, you had to make some bread for bread week.
I mean, yeah, but it wasn't like
But
sourdough. Like, you know, people
yeah.
that live in like a cottage and make sourdough all day. Like, I don't get it. I
Yeah.
don't.
And drink tea.
I drink tea.
Yeah,
For
don't get
losers.
that either,
The
apparently.
losers. I literally have this mug sitting here that says drink tea, read books, be cozy. I'm like,
Oh.
Oh,
You should add
no,
the and I'm a loser at the
yeah.
bottom.
exactly.
That
No, I
would
need
make
my
it
like 8
complete.
coffees a day, so
Yeah.
yeah, I'm very caffeinated.
Ever
Yeah.
since I went to nursing school, I'm drinking coffee like, you know, pretty much on tap. But yeah. All right, next. Signature, technical, or showstopper?
Showstopper.
Showstopper, be
Okay.
dramatic.
See, this is why we're friends. We're like the same person.
Exactly.
I mean, it's great. It makes the this or that go very fast. And
Really?
when we're on a time
Great.
limit, then that works for
Well,
us.
yeah, perfect.
So showstopper because those are the kinds of things that you like to bake, and you felt like the technical was a bit rough sometimes, and
Sometimes, no, all the time.
No,
Like
all the
technicals
time.
are
Yeah.
hell.
I'm
So
trying to give you
Yeah.
some leeway there. Okay,
That makes sense.
showstopper, I can
Yeah.
understand that.
And you've got some time during the showstopper as well. I mean, you could do a lot more.
yeah, they give you like 3 hours and it's all fun, but technicals are like you're you know, there's like a bomb in front of you and you're trying to
Diffuse it. Yeah.
defuse it or
That's
whatever. So
Oh,
yeah.
my heart rate just went up just thinking of it.
I remember I was like really struggling with showstoppers, and at the end when we all huddle, I asked Bruno, like, hey Bruno, like, you would ask a prof, like, can you give me some advice here? I'm really struggling. And he was like, you need to watch what everybody else is doing. And I was like, wait, you want me to cheat? Like, you want me And he's like, yeah, you need to watch what everybody's doing. And if you're on par with them for time, then you're okay. And I did that the next week. And that's the week I went home. So,
Oh,
Oh,
Wow.
I
thanks,
mean, his
Bruno.
advice was really good.
Thanks,
Yeah.
Bruno.
maybe you should have
Technicals
asked
just
Kyla.
need technicals just need a different type of instinct, and I guess maybe I'm not tapped into that yet, but yeah.
Yeah, it's a different skill set, I think. Yeah.
Mhm.
All
Right.
right.
Cake or pastries?
To eat or to make?
Both?
Oh,
Oh, pastries for me.
I'll stick to cake.
Okay.
Yeah, you're a cake guy
Yeah, this seems
through
about
and
right.
through. Yeah.
Pastries are pretty good though. I mean, yeah.
Yes.
I'd rather eat pastries, I think. Yeah. Macaron or choux?
Choux.
Macaron. My God, we're so different. Are you just
Oh my
trying
What is
to
God.
happening
be the
here?
opposite of me?
Are we going to
I
split you
Oh,
two
no.
up? I don't
I
want
know.
that.
I'm
no,
thinking that too.
okay,
The
hear
last
me
two.
out. Hear
Uh-huh.
me out. You can't make pasta with macaron, but you can with choux pastry.
You say
Listen.
pasta?
Yeah.
What do you mean pasta?
You can make pasta with the same dough that you use for choux pastry.
Hmm.
Oh,
It's called
Pasta like the
gnocchi.
savory thing, and then choux like choux au crème.
No, like pâte à choux. If you make pâte à choux, you can use that to make both eclairs, choux, like choux au craquelin, and pasta if you wanted to. Like if you boil a pot of water and just like
drop
snap.
little
Really?
snippets
Yeah.
in.
Yeah. And I just
I
think
didn't know
that's
that.
like so versatile.
Yeah.
That's
You
why.
can make
Yeah.
yourself a 3-course meal out of
Yeah.
Yeah, just like the
Yeah.
same
double
dough.
batch of shoe.
Yeah. An
Appetizers.
app, a
just-
main, and
Yeah,
dessert.
dessert.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One
We
dough,
definitely would not want
3 meals.
pasta made out of macaron.
Yeah, exactly.
That would not be
Sorry,
good.
ladies, I gotta
Yeah.
run.
Yes.
That makes so
No
much sense.
worries.
Thank you for being here with
Thank
us.
you.
That is,
Thank you
we
so much for
really
having us. That
appreciate
was
it.
amazing.
It was
Yeah,
so
this was
cool to
fun.
talk.
Great.
Let's
much
retalk
Thanks.
soon.
We definitely need to do that again. Yes. And maybe one day we'll actually meet in real life. That would
On
be
our
Hopefully
sure.
on our
soon.
road trip.
Yeah, absolutely. Come visit us.
All right.
Perfect.
We'll
All
do
right.
that. Okay.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Did you want me to stick around or?
Yeah, we
Yeah,
may as
okay,
well.
sure.
If you have some time, yeah,
Cool.
that'd be great.
We'd love
Sure.
to continue chatting.
And probably a good thing that, it's just you now and there's not going to be that,
The discrepancy.
discrepancies, right? We don't want to
Don't want
come
to ruin
between
your
you
friendship.
guys. No, we don't. And I could see it was going there.
It was getting there. Oh yeah. We were
Hey,
on the
buddy.
verge.
On the verge. On the
Good.
verge. All right. Chocolate or vanilla?
Chocolate.
Yeah.
I've been a chocolate girl since I was little. Vanilla is great, but it's vanilla.
Yeah.
What do you think that Rainier would have said to that?
Yeah.
I think he would have said, "Oh, that's tough. I'm trying to think of. I don't really know. I think
You
he would
should
have said
text him.
chocolate. I think he would have said chocolate too. Yeah. Let me ask him. Let me see how quick he
Yeah,
responds.
yeah. Let's see. Hey,
We'll
that
continue
would
the
be funny.
recording with text.
We'll
Don't
get
interrupt him.
I think he would say chocolate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's hard to beat chocolate, really. It's good stuff.
Again, I just like things that are versatile, right?
Mhm.
Like
That's fair.
there's just so many things you can do with chocolate. Like different textures, yeah, I really like that.
Yeah. And do you have a favorite type of chocolate?
I like dark chocolate. I think especially in macarons, I find like filling it with a dark chocolate ganache really balances out the sweet.
Sweet, yeah.
I like bitter and sweet,
Yeah.
like
Mhm.
kind of together.
Salty
So
combo. Yeah.
Yeah, I was just gonna think, put a little bit of salt in there. That would just be like, Okay,
exactly.
that's probably the only place where I would prefer dark chocolate then is to balance it out like that. But I never understand when people say their favorite chocolate is dark chocolate. I'm like, I want something nice and creamy and sweet.
Creamy sweet. Yeah. Milk
I'm
chocolate
having
has
chocolate.
its moment. I think white chocolate is my least favorite thing because it's not even chocolate. Like, what am I eating? I don't.
Give.
This is a bone of contention. She always says this. Okay, I'm with you. I'm with you on the white chocolate. But Christina, see her active judgment
face.
is definitely
Activated.
immediately. Now
No.
I mean, if it has cocoa butter in it, then technically it's chocolate. But most of the white chocolates you find are going to be not chocolate, just candy. And I feel
that's fair.
But
No,
she's
I
like,
think
no,
there's
it's chocolate, and it's her favorite chocolate.
It is if I'm going to have chocolate, if I'm going to have chocolate, which isn't very often, I'm not a massive fan of chocolate. Again, please do not come at me. But white chocolate, I find, like you said, you like chocolate over vanilla for versatility. I find white chocolate is just so nice and versatile. I love, pairing it with like fruit, especially dried fruits and, and I don't know, and chocolate ganache or white chocolate ganache. And I don't know, I just find there's just such versatility with white chocolate and it's so pretty and you can color it to whatever color you want it. So that's kind of why I like it. And I think it balances off some more sort of tart like lemon or, again, raspberries, cherries, blueberries, all
This
of
has been a public service announcement for white chocolate.
that.
Thank you, Christina Petsnick. And now back to the show.
All
All
right.
right. Cooking or baking?
Oh, they're so different. Baking because I, yeah, like I actually don't like cooking that much because it feels more like a chore.
Yeah, because you
Like
Yeah,
have
fair.
to
I feel
do
like
it.
I
You
have to
have
do
to
it.
do it.
Feed
I
your
think it was like
family.
Ina Garten that said like, oh, I love making dinner, but I hate making it when it's expected of me, and that's what cooking feels like.
Yeah.
Um, but I will like I love to put together, like a nice feast for family or friends when they come over and it's food. But with baking, I like the precision and it really makes me feel like I have to be really present and mindful. Otherwise, mistakes happen. And that's I think why I really enjoy baking. And also because I've come to a point where I can make art out of it. And that
Yeah.
I find I can't really do that much with baking. Like there's only so many ways you can make salmon look nice
Yes.
before it still looks like fish.
That's totally fair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
That's totally
true.
fair. Now, you just did a very cool
Oh, yeah.
competition with Andrew on Good
Yeah.
Stuff TV with Mary
Oh, that
Berg,
was fun.
Yeah,
which
that
was
was
all
really fun.
cooking out of stuff that you find in the back of your freezer. How
Yep.
fun.
Was that more
It
fun
was so
than,
fun.
yeah.
It was also kind of um like if you saw our cooking setup, it was like how you would cook if you were camping. So even though, and of course, because you're like, in a small studio and it makes sense, we're kind of sharing a counter space. So it was like cooking under extreme circumstances. It's like if I was gonna be in an apocalypse and everything was frozen over and I only had like a little spiral thing, what are those? Not induction, like coil,
Yeah.
whatever
Yes.
tops to cook on.
Yeah.
I would survive that apocalypse, which is nice
Nice.
to know.
Good to
Excellent.
know. It's
Yeah.
a good
It's
test.
a very important skill. Well, that's kind of funny that you say that actually, because when you were talking earlier about trauma bonding,
Yeah.
with all of you there, and I was going to say, you're all friends in a foxhole, but then I was like, but that's not what that is when you're on the Great Canadian Baking Show. Like, it's not like that. But maybe this one was kind of like that's the foxhole. You only have limited ingredients and you only have
Yeah.
limited
Yeah.
counter space and instruments to use, etc. And you're cooking, not baking. There's your foxhole there.
Yep, for sure. For the Great Canadian Baking Show, like even though it was like a controlled environment, we had everything at our fingertips. Like
Yeah,
if we needed anything, any tool, any specialty ingredient, it was there, it was given to us. This was like,
like
no,
magic.
this is what you have, make it work.
Yeah,
Yeah.
completely
Wow.
different.
Yeah.
Yeah. And how long did you guys have to put together the meal?
So we had in total about an hour, which included thawing time, which is why you see both of us doing shrimp.
Mhm.
Because like, you
Do that
risk,
fast.
we had a microwave, so I could have done chicken theoretically, but then there's also many risks with that. Like, will
Mhm.
Mary be able to eat it? Is it going to be edible at the end?
Yeah.
So shrimp is just like a really safe, guaranteed edible thing. And I was also like, what do I always have in my freezer that I'm like, ugh, how do I use this? And
Yeah.
shrimp is like, it's always there in the bottom of your freezer, a bag of shrimp and some like puff pastry that you didn't use because you didn't use it all for a party. So there's like a roll left. So I was like, how can I transform this dish to make it something totally different from what's in my freezer?
Yeah.
Mhm. And then it's
Yeah.
kind of like baking anyway, because you're using puff
Yeah.
pastry.
Pastry. Yeah.
Yeah,
And you
exactly.
still
Well, yeah,
combined it.
exactly. Except I didn't bake my puff pastry. I pan fried it.
Oh,
Yeah.
how
Which
did
was
it?
a great idea.
Yeah, it's a really good
Yeah.
idea.
Yeah.
Yes, and
That
congratulations.
thank you. That dish specifically is like both of those components are things that I really miss about home. Like
Mhm.
when I say home, Canada's obviously my home now. It has
Mhm.
been for 25 something years, but Kerala, India is where my family's from ancestrally, and that dish is something whenever we go, like we have it. And so it was supposed to be like the coldest day in Ontario when we filmed that. And so it was just like bringing warmth to my heart in so many different ways
Oh, I
through
love
like the
it.
spices, the whole studio. I hadn't even added my spices or aromatics yet. I was only frying like curry leaves, onions and garlic, and it just like took over the space. And Mary
Wow.
was like, "What? You didn't add your spices? What do you mean? Like, what are these smells?"
Now, when did you
Oh, yeah.
film that?
It would have been in January, I think January 18th.
Okay. So not too long
I
ago.
don't have the
That's
exact date, but yeah.
nice to have a faster turnover.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
nice to reconnect with Andrew probably as well.
Yeah.
Must have been
Yeah.
kind of
Well,
fun to.
Oh,
Andrew invited me, so that was
Oh,
really
okay.
cool because
Oh,
oh,
nice.
he lives in Toronto, so for him to go to that is like it's he has to take time off work, but it's like probably 20 minutes from his house.
yeah.
For me, it's like a 3-hour drive. So he like invited me, and I happened to be like in the GTA that weekend anyway, so I just spent an extra day and got there really early. We spent all morning catching up, and then we went and competed, and it was a friendly competition, and we just had a good time. Yeah.
Yeah.
Any excuse to
Yeah.
see those guys, I'm like, yes, sign me
Yeah.
up.
Yes, for
That's so
sure.
cool.
Yeah, and we
That's
love
really cool.
Andrew. We're so looking forward to talking to him soon, having him
Yay,
on the podcast.
good.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. So now you have buttercream icing.
Oh.
Christina, it's your question.
Oh, is it my question? Okay.
Woo.
American, meringue based, or some other type of buttercream or icing?
For eating, I would say meringue based. I like the thought that I'm also getting some protein with my butter.
Sure.
Like,
I
That's a good
like
idea.
that.
That's a great
That's
way to look at it.
really good.
She's licking the whisk. She's like, I got my
Yeah.
protein.
And
yeah,
calcium in there for good measure, right?
Yeah.
A little calcium, a little protein. Wow, who knew it was a health food?
Fully
right.
balanced meal.
You got your fats, protein, carb. No, I'm
Pretty
like you can sell anything
Awesome.
like that. No, but if also just for like icing, for smoothing over cakes and stuff, like it gives it a glossier, more
Yeah.
cleaner look. Sometimes I find with American buttercream, it has a very like dull, almost matte finish.
Mhm.
And some cakes look better with American. Some people even like, especially because I sell cakes now, they prefer American. But if I had to make it like for myself, I would say meringue based. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And usually Swiss, or do you do the Italian meringue?
I usually do Swiss.
Yeah.
Swiss is just the easier one for me.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I used to be so afraid of making meringues, and now I'm like, what was I so afraid of? Honestly, it's like once you understand the science and just realize that it's all about temperature when it comes to buttercream,
Mhm.
like it's not that scary anymore. I remember one year when I had first started baking, I took frozen raspberries and I trying to make raspberry buttercream with butter instead of cooling down the raspberries. And so of course my buttercream like curdled.
Yeah.
And I was like, my mom's like, oh yes, the acid from the fruit must have turned the butter bad, so we chucked it all out. And like all I had to do was bring it all to room temperature and it
Yeah.
probably would have whipped up
Well,
fine.
and
Yeah.
that is the other thing, right? It's all about, yeah, when it splits like that or what have you, it's really about, yeah,
Cooling or
readjusting the
heating.
temperature.
Yes.
Yeah,
Exactly.
exactly.
Exactly. Every buttercream can be saved buttercream.
Almost
So
every time. I've never thrown
Almost.
out buttercream, meringue based or not. Once I learned that, like, yeah, just regulate the temperature, figure
Mhm.
it out.
And
Butter
keep
is your
on
friend.
yeah.
beating it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And even
yeah,
if it does,
exactly.
yeah. And I'll share a little story with you because I had a little bit, I'll post it on Baking Scraps too, actually here. But
Is it a crap? Is it a baking
it
crap?
is, it's a baking crap, a big baking crap, a dumb baking crap.
Oh,
So I
how
was making
fun.
some Swiss meringue and everything
You do
was
that all the
going.
time.
I do. I know. I could do it in my sleep.
Yeah.
And so whipping up some Swiss meringue, everything was all great. I went to add my coloring. which was a beautiful lavender color. It was gorgeous. Well, I've got different types of color milk. So I've got the aqua-based color
Oils,
milk,
yeah.
which I thought I was putting into my Swiss meringue,
No.
but I ended up
Yeah.
putting in my oil-based one. And then it immediately, and we're talking just like that, went from nice, fluffy, glossy meringue
To
to
light. Yeah.
bleh.
Soup.
Oh,
So I actually ended up repurposing it though and made a cake out of it. So I have
Oh,
a
like I did
beautiful
with my pound cakes.
Earl Grey cake. Exactly. Yeah. So that
nice.
turned out well. So,
That was
but
the one time I could not save a batch. It was a
Yeah.
triple batch of whatever buttercream I was making. And so I just figured out, okay, how am I going to turn this into something else? And ended up making pound cakes out of it and it worked really well. So way to go, Christina. Way to save. Yay! That's and keep your oil-based and your water-based in different.
I
Separate.
usually do. I usually do. I thought I had picked up the correct one, and then I obviously had not looked close. I should wear my glasses
And
when
when you say
I
you can make it in your sleep, maybe you were making it in your sleep.
obviously
You were
was.
not paying enough attention.
Because I've cut out caffeine. That's what
Sleeping
I'll
on the
blame it
job.
on. I will blame it on cutting out caffeine.
Need some Persian chai.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm,
That's
that
right.
sounds so delicious.
Whenever I
Okay.
have people come over and I offer them Persian chai, at first they'll be like, no, no, I don't drink tea, blah, blah, blah. And then I'll be like, just have one. And immediately they're like, where did you get this? Where can I
Addicted.
get it? How do
Mhm.
you like? And then all the questions start happening. And
Oh
yeah, it's
yeah.
like one of our favorite things to serve.
I'm
Oh,
excited. So how would you serve your Persian tea, just straight up how you make it? Or do you, because you don't do it with milk like you would with the chai, but do you put milk in it or do you add anything to it? It's just
So it's the way it's made is like there's a double boiler system. So the bottom boils your water, and then you have like a top teapot where you steep your leaves, and it makes almost like a concentrated steeped tea extract, basically. When you're ready to pour it and serve it, you pour some, like half of your cup will be that dark steeped tea, and then the rest of your water, so you can kind of adjust how dark or how light you want it, comes from the bottom boiled water. So that's how you control, like, I guess, how dark or how strong you want your tea. But something that like my husband really likes doing is he'll just have it with like a sugar cube, like a cube, and you
between
don't
his
put
teeth
the cube in the tea, you put the cube in your mouth and then you drink your tea.
okay.
across.
Another, yeah, or they'll have this like stick with like saffron rock candy that you
Mhm.
can kind of twirl in your tea. So there's a few different ways. I still drink my like masala chai every morning. It's become like my ritual, part of my morning ritual. I just like the process of like crushing the spices, smelling the spices, letting it boil, and yeah, I
Very
like doing that.
comforting for
So
you.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And it's like again a piece of home
Yeah.
every day. Yeah.
Well, I hope you don't mind if we come into your area, if we invite ourselves in for a cup
Please
of tea.
come.
Come make
That
tea.
sounds wonderful to
Or
me.
maybe a couple of cups of tea, one
Yeah, we need
Yeah,
to try
chai
both
and
of
one
these.
Persian.
Exactly. Yes.
whenever you want.
Okay.
Nice,
And we're going to
nice.
hold you to that.
Yeah,
All
I
right.
mean, I'm home most of the time, so just let me know.
Perfect. Sounds good.
Perfect.
Next question, baking at home or baking in the tent?
Oh. Um, for sure baking at home. I have all my equipment.
Mhm.
Um, but baking in the tent would mean I get to bake with my friends.
Mm.
That's a tough one. Um, I still want to bake at home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Like
do
I just
think
have my comfort zone.
Mhm.
It's my kitchen. I love it. Yeah. And by the way, Renee did text me back and he
Okay.
said vanilla, duh.
wow. So it really is a good thing we didn't do the
Yeah.
rest of this or that with the two of you
Good
guys.
time for him to go off. Yeah.
We do not want to be responsible for the destruction of this friendship. That would be
Definitely,
terrible.
definitely not. Definitely not. But
Our
the cook,
our our little picture when we're advertising you will just be like you on one side and Rainier on the other side with like a big like
Cracking the
yeah, crack.
candle. Oh my God, drama. That's how you're gonna get lots
We'll
of
make
views.
a broken heart, and you'll each be on one side of it, and we'll be
Oh,
like, it's all our fault.
sorry. Sorry.
I hope
That's
not.
called clickbait.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe we should learn to do a little bit more
Yeah.
More
clickbait. We could
clickbait.
get
Yeah,
some more
maybe.
views. That'd be
Oh.
great.
And also, no one would believe it.
Yeah. I think you're right
Oh,
about that.
there you
Yeah.
Okay,
go.
here's your judgment one. You could
Okay.
potentially
So,
be judged hard by
and we'll need to ask Rainier this one as well,
Yeah.
actually. Unless you know it, and you might, because
Yeah,
this is
you
something you
probably
would
will.
have been asked on Great Canadian Baking Show
Oh,
about butter tarts, raisins or no raisins.
no reasons for me.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think that's what he says too, but I can ask him, raisins or no raisins for butter tarts.
They'd be like, raisins, duh.
This
No,
is
it's
going to be
definitely
a
no raisins
big
for me.
one.
I have had them. Okay, let me put it this way. If I have the option of eating a butter tart with raisins or not eating a butter tart, I will still eat the butter tart with raisins.
That's totally fair. That's totally
Any
fair.
butter tart is better than no butter tart.
I
You're
like your
definitely a
reasoning.
full Canadian then.
Yeah,
But if
but
you
if you
were,
gave me the option, like I love the pecan tarts, which are like butter tarts with pecans in them because I like the textural element of it. But if I really had to pick, I would say no raisins.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
there you
so
go.
no
See?
judgment from Christina then.
No.
You did well. I don't
Good.
judge. I never
Good.
judge.
Oh, come on, you judge me a little.
Oh, well, you I will judge
Yeah,
occasionally.
see,
That's what all good friendships are based on anyway.
Judgment
right?
So,
fully.
Right.
yeah.
Yes,
Oh,
and
yeah.
the occasional need for cinnamon.
Yes, immediate need for.
Immediate need for cinnamon.
Yeah.
It's a good thing
That's
Yes.
that your husband is always away, usually away when I come to stay with you, because if I came racing out of the room with cinnamon in a towel, then I wouldn't want him to be there.
no, no, and here's the other thing. Why would you have cinnamon in the bathroom?
I mean, no, I just my room where I'm staying in my suitcase. I might
Oh,
have brought some like Ceylon
oh,
cinnamon for you or
well,
something.
maybe. Okay, well, there you go. That's plausible.
No, it's
No.
okay. I mean, I just thought of a weird scenario, which will
But
never happen.
I so love that story though, soaking
Yes.
wet with a towel around his waist with cinnamon in hand. I'm saving
He
him.
he like ran into my room thinking that because when you're in the middle of like baking, if
Yes.
Yeah.
you don't have time, like things are deflating or things need to be like put into the oven right away. And like bless his heart, he thought it was like I had started my baking time because normally you would time it as well. So
Oh,
he didn't
gotcha.
want me to like kind of be waiting around for 15 minutes and then my baking time's all thrown off. What can I do it in the 3 hours, let's say if it was a showstopper. So like he had all of the best intentions, but the look on the hotel staff guy's face, I will never forget the look because it was like, how do you explain this? Like she needed cinnamon. It was an emergency.
Yeah.
Cinnamon in an
And
emergency.
they're like, uh-huh.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
Okay.
So after that,
Sounds
we
like a
just started
sitcom.
like putting our like doors with the latch so
Yeah.
it wouldn't close all the way,
Yeah.
so that we could kind of walk in and out of each other's rooms if we needed
That's right.
ingredients or whatever.
In case you had
Yeah.
another Cinnemergency.
Yeah, exactly.
All right.
Oh, that is
Well,
hilarious.
that's all the questions that we have for you for this or that.
Perfect.
But we
That
would
sounds
love
good.
it if before you go, if you would give us a baking scrap, so a tip or a trick for people who may be new to baking or maybe struggling with some aspect that maybe you've struggled with in the past. If you can let us know, let everybody know
Oh,
what your baking
that's
scrap is for today.
um I'm trying to think about like um what I do that's like super helpful, that has like changed my baking experience. Oh, I don't know about you guys, but I don't like resting my like tools and stuff directly on my counter.
Hmm.
So and it like drives me nuts. And then you have like stuff all over your counter. And I also don't like using like baking trays, because then you have like huge baking trays to clean afterwards. So I have like a large cake lifter. It's
Yeah.
Yep.
yeah, I don't actually use it for lifting any cakes. I don't really know why that thing was invented. Have you guys ever used a cake lifter?
I've only used
Only
it
once or twice.
once.
Yeah, okay.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't actually lift cakes with that, so I use that as my like tool rest or spoon
Oh,
rest
that's a
so
really
that
great idea.
things
Oh,
don't touch my counter, and then I feel like things are more sanitized, because it's also easier to just like sanitize that one
Mhm.
tool than your entire,
Yes.
counter space.
counter.
That's like a kind of a silly baking
No,
strategy.
it's not.
No,
It's
that's
literally,
great.
I'm like, I'm going to use that because I mean, yesterday I was working on something and it had like four different components to it. And I had these different, and I'm like, oh, well, I have the spatula from scraping the bowl and I don't want to put
Yeah.
that on the counter. So I'm like balancing it across,
Yeah.
stuff
The
I'm going to use for the
bowl,
next
yeah.
component. And I'm
Yeah.
like, I don't want to get any of that in there. But yeah,
Mhm.
so that's a great idea. I'm,
It's
I'm going to use that.
it's given my cake lifter new purpose
Yeah, yeah. I also
instead
have
of just
like
sitting in the
I
cabinet.
have really bad after the show. No, I don't have it anymore, but like shortly after the show, I got really bad arthritis in my
Oh,
forearm and my wrist and stuff, just from the intensity and the level of baking and piping and stuff we were doing. And for me, I also have like really small hands. So I just go to the thrift store and I buy like miniature everything, like miniature spatulas, miniature whisks, miniature baking pans, because it's just like cleaning and using them is so much easier that way.
Yeah.
And so, and then in storage too, like you don't have these gigantic,
taking up space.
yeah, taking up space. So I just have miniature things that I use for my baking.
I
That's
love this.
another
These
little
are
tip.
these are perfect baking scraps
They're
because these are things
fabulous.
that, aren't out there in the mainstream, but they're things that are incredibly helpful.
Yeah. And I've heard like a lot of bakers will develop, forearm and carpal
Hmm.
tunnel and whatever. So smaller tools for me they're lighter, they're easier to use. So
Yeah,
yeah.
and I mean your arms, your hands, they are your instruments and your tools too. So you got to keep
Mhm.
them in good shape. And if you can do
Yeah.
that by utilizing something different, then
Hmm.
that's just your best bet. So
Yeah.
that's
That's
wonderful.
that's
Thank you, Niv.
Wonderful.
Thanks for
thanks.
being here with
Thank
us
No,
you.
today.
thanks. Thanks for hosting us. I had a really fun time sharing some of our behind the scenes stories with you guys. And too
Yeah.
bad Rainier had to leave early, but he actually has work to do, unlike me.
I mean, you're a mom, right?
I'm a
So
mom
Yes,
and a
yes,
baker.
you've
yes.
got a
That's a
lot
lot of
on your
work.
plate.
Yeah.
That's a lot of work.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
definitely do not take that lightly. I mean,
No, I
we're
know.
both moms too, so we know
Yeah,
we know what a job that is. So
for
Yeah,
sure.
even
yeah.
if you were just doing that, we would be like, no,
Yeah,
you
Oh,
you
exactly.
thanks.
have lots of work to do.
Yeah.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Oh,
Well,
All
thank
thank
you
you
and
right.
have a
so
wonderful rest
much.
of your
You
day.
too.
So
Yeah, and if,
excited to
Bye.
chat with
Thanks for
you.
having us.
Yeah.
yeah, take care.
Yeah.
Bye, Niv.
Bye.
All
Oh,
right.
that was fun.
I'm still laughing so hard at that story they
The
shared.
Cinnemergency.
Cinnemergency. We need cinnamon ASAP.
Too funny. And I mean, you can't help but visualize what that must have been like. And, standing there in his towel and bang, the door closes behind.
Oh my goodness. I could not imagine that the hotel person who had to come and, you know,
Hmm.
unlock his door. Because
Hmm.
normally in a hotel, you would need to provide the ID, right? To
Yeah.
get back into your room.
Yeah.
Clearly,
No,
he did
no
not have
ID.
any on him.
No. I would assume he wasn't carrying ID in his towel.
Probably not.
Just
But
cinnamon.
apparently, just
He's
cinnamon.
like, I'm one of the bakers. Really, I am.
And she had a cinnamon emergency.
Right. Oh, well, they said they didn't know what they were doing there. That's right. They didn't know that they were
Oh,
bakers for the show.
even at the hotel, they would know.
I think I remember them saying that, but
Hmm.
anyway, we can go
Never
back and
mind.
listen.
Okay. Anyway,
Either way,
regardless of the situation,
I was thinking about Niv telling her husband about it.
right?
Yeah. Yeah, I can just imagine how my husband would respond to that.
Yeah, mine would probably be a lot perplexed.
Yes.
He'd
It's
be like,
okay.
"What? I'm sorry, you had an
Cinnemergency.
emergency, and this guy had to drop literally everything,
Except his
but this
towel.
towel, to bring it over to you."
I mean,
Mhm.
if our husbands don't understand what constitutes an emergency in baking by now, they have not been paying attention,
Fair enough.
right? They should
Fair enough.
understand.
Yeah.
Yes. I'm
Yeah.
just grateful that he was so willing to be there for her in her time of need, regardless of
Absolutely.
she
And good
didn't need it that quickly, but
And isn't that a great quality in a friend who is literally willing to drop absolutely everything except his towel?
except thankfully the towel.
Thankfully, accept his towel to come and help you out in your time of need.
Yes,
And that is like a great quality. And I think that speaks to a lot of the types of people
that we
that come
see in the
onto the
tent.
show,
Yep, for
right?
sure.
And I think if anybody had a sin emergency, that they would be there for each other.
Yes. Yeah, I think they could probably text anyone in that group chat that they have for the Great Canadian Baking Show of however many bakers there are in there now and just be like, "Hey, I need this," and there would be offers.
Somebody's got your back.
Yeah, it's pretty great. I got your back.
I got
If
your back.
if I
That's
could,
how
I'd be over there in a second with some
I
cinnamon.
know. And this is where it would be amazing to be neighbors.
It
Be
would
your
be amazing
neighbor.
to be
Yeah.
neighbors. Maybe one of these days.
One of these days, maybe we will be neighbors in that tent.
Oh, I would love that so much. Oh well, at least we get proximity.
Girl can always
Is this
dream.
the dream? All right, let's stop dreaming. It's time to go.
Reality hits.
Yeah. Thank you all for being
Aw,
here with us. I hope you enjoyed our little chat with our friends Niv and Rainier, and we hope
and
you all have a really great day.
sounds good. Happy baking, everyone.
Happy baking.